What if I told you there's a way to level up extremely fast, get infinite resources, and also get infinite money? In this video, I'm going to show you some really amazing methods you can use from very early on to boost up your character a lot more and also build probably one of the coolest early on bases that give you the infinite amount of ingots that you need to craft some of the most powerful gear in the game. Well, at least until you get some of the much stronger stuff later on. So first things first, let's talk about leveling. By far, the best early on at small levels is to take advantage of the capture bonus that each creature has. You can, by the way, check this in the Pal deck section and you will see that every single creature in the game has 10 capture bonuses. So as long as you catch that creature 10 times, this is going to give you like hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of XP that scales up to your level. So yes, this absolutely still works even if you are much higher level. You can still go back to the starting zones and get all the Lamballs, Cativas, Chickpeas, and all the other low level pals. As long as you did not finish the capture bonus for any of these, go ahead and still collect them. You're going to always get that scaled up XP. By the way, if you're wondering how to get these Pal spheres, then you can get a ton of them by just using Vixies and essentially placing them inside of a ranch. So you can find a ton of them in the yellow forest very close to the small settlement waypoint. There's a bunch of them over here you can capture, so just try to get at least a handful of them to bring them home. Now once you do that, place them inside ranches. You of course have to build one, so make sure you do that. Pick them up manually and throw them inside so that you can manually make them dig for resources. Now some of the resources they give also include money and even arrows, but they also drop a lot of these very interesting spheres, and this is exactly what I did. In a few days you will get hundreds upon hundreds for each and every single one of them, so you will never have to worry especially about catching things with spheres, at least the low level ones. And around this time is when you're going to notice that your Pokédex or box is going to be filled with a lot of pals. So in this case, filter through the ones that actually have useful passive skills. So any of these yellow colored upgrades, anything that gives them extra speed, damage, or just makes them a lot more useful around the camp, try to keep those because we're gonna sell the rest for a massive profit. And since we've been using slave labor and animal cruelty to get ourselves rich, why not bring it a step beyond and also involve a black market guy to sell the pals that we don't actually need? And we actually can find a shady guy right here very close to the desolate church area. It's the one with the red forest. Keep this area in mind because we're gonna do a massive farm in just a little bit. But go inside the cave, make sure you also have a torch so you can see the way, and once you reach the guy you can go ahead, buy and sell excess pals. And as you can see, just a few minutes of farming these very low level ones already brings me like 7 to 8k in profit. Very easy for some of the higher level stuff, and if you do it even more, you're going to get even more from these. So this is how you're going to get some of the initial starting money. You can also then funnel it to buy some of the stuff that he also sells. These will rotate daily, but I believe you can also reset it much faster. Plus, there are many other vendors all around the map that also sell goods. For example, if you go to this location right here again at the small settlement, there are 2 vendors inside, one of which actually buys and sells goods that you can use. So crafting items, recipes, stuff that you can generally craft yourself too, but in case you cannot just yet, you can buy it from here. Now there's also a bonus about these merchants. You can actually capture them just like any other pal. Now I did a mistake and got one inside of a fort, but just to show you that it works, you can go ahead, grab them, and assuming that you captured them, you can go back at your base and place them over here, and now you have your very own merchant accessible at any given time. The only slight problem is that he doesn't really do anything, but he is going to give you access to all of these without having to travel anywhere else. So that's why I recommend having a wandering traveler so that you can buy and sell excess goods, so gear that you no longer use or just items you have a lot of, as well as the pal vendor so that you can also sell and buy pals in case you want something really cool. But like I said, eventually we also want to build a farm, and this brings us to one of the best possible locations you can find very early on. Now why do you need ore? Basically you need it for everything. You funnel this into ingots, and then ingots you will build with them pretty much everything, at least in the middle of the game. So this includes weapons like muskets, also some of the armors, especially the heavy iron armor. Plus, it's also useful at various upgrades, even like the grappling hook and many of the other stuff like saddles and other creature upgrades you will find in your decks. So from this point on, you're going to head over again in the same church area right here into the red forest, and behind that church you will find a very big cluster of ore, about like 8 of these, up to 10, depends on your luck. But this is like the highest concentration I have ever seen, at least this early on. So obviously I went ahead and I already placed down a base. It's not even optimal just yet, but I just wanted to showcase how good it is and how much it produces every single minute. So the way I set it up is that here we have the ore, and on the opposite side of the church we have the base, because we cannot build a base computer that close to the church. It considers it a, I believe, boss area, so it's not going to let you. But if you cut down some of the trees over there, you can place it down and you can, yeah, just make this whole setup right here. I also placed some beds for the creatures, also ways to self-sustain themselves because they also have to eat. But most important, I just placed down one of these things right here. So it's a chest in which they will bring the items. You only need one, no more than that. Basically that's it. And right next to it we're gonna use some of these fire pits, because we do need to smelt that into the iron ore that we need to then funnel into items. Now the only problem you kind of have to solve is finding creatures that focus a lot more on mining. Unfortunately, the ones that I have kind of do a lot of things. So the pin kings, for example, they do mine this very well. They do kind of, you know, become useful eventually, but they also kind of stop and water these plantations, which is fine because this means I don't need to waste a slot on a creature that does just that. So every now and then they will go back, water the plantation, and then my little monkeys will just take care of planting and gathering those seeds. But the best is going to be these tombats. These creatures can be found relatively early, but only during at night. So you will find them usually in forest areas. I don't think there's a designated spot in which you can find them specifically, but these seem to be the best in terms of collecting and generally just destroying those ores. Mining level 2, but yeah, this is what they do most of the time. They don't do anything else. They don't do transporting, they don't do gathering, they do a lot more of the mining. Also, very interesting about this spot is that all of the ones doing mining will actually stay in one spot and not actively move to each individual ore. This is the only place in which I saw this happening, and I'm assuming that's because of the high concentration of interactable objects, I guess. But essentially they all stay in the same place, and you will see like they mine stuff in the air. It doesn't do anything, but then one of the ores in the distance is the one that gets damaged, so they essentially wirelessly damage the ores and collect the resources. Not sure why that's the case. Obviously it's a bug, but it makes it a lot more efficient because they travel much less, so then you can collect the resources much better. That's just the way this setup is. And yeah, that's pretty much it with the video. Let me know down below if there's any other cool tips or secrets that you want to share. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up and a subscribe would definitely help a ton. Plus also check out the other video I made with some of the best and strongest starting pals you want to get your hands on, especially if fighting is something that you absolutely love. There's a video that's already up on the channel and you can check it by following the links below.